I've been a top-rated seller on eBay for 24 years, and in just 10 minutes, I'm going to give you my top 20 mistakes to avoid as a beginner eBayer. Whether you're selling decluttered items or starting an eBay store, what I have to say will make a difference for you. So don't make the same mistakes I did. Let's get started. I've done this one a couple of times. This is a huge mistake you don't want to make. Listing an item twice. It pays, believe me, to be careful when you're listing your items and not to make this mistake. For instance, you could sell that item, not realize that the other one is sold, already shipped out, and is long gone. When this happens, it can really disappoint a buyer and they won't shop with you again. Now, this is a mistake you don't want to make. Make sure that when you're shipping your item, it is in a clean, acceptable condition. You might have seen my long gray-haired cat Gigi in my previous video, Maximum Refresh. And if you have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Gigi has long gray hair that gets all over everything. So when I sell an item of clothing, for instance, I go over it with packing tape and make sure that there is absolutely no Gigi hair on it. Your buyer will not be happy if they receive an item that is not clean. I'm not only an eBay seller, I'm an eBay shopper. I love eBay. I love to find unique items that I can't find elsewhere. And I see this mistake happen all the time. Sellers don't put the dimensions of their items. If you don't take the time to take the measurements and put that in your listing, that is a huge detractor, and people will oftentimes just go to the next listing. One of the biggest mistakes that you can make is looking at current listings to price your items. That is absolutely the wrong thing to do. You want to find out what people have actually sold their items for, not what they're currently listing them at. You need to go to filters, scroll down until you see sold items, find the item that looks most like yours, and that is the price that you can expect. Now, this can be a little bit tricky on a phone to locate, especially if you're in the app. So what you want to do is go to the filters, which is located at the top of the page, press that, go down to see more, press that, and that should bring you to the sold section. Now, I have not done this myself, but I see this mistake happen all the time on eBay with my own purchases. A seller is not honest with their description of the item I want. So I go ahead and buy it, and I receive it, and it is in poor condition. I like to think the best of people. So I know that this is probably an accident, but I would encourage you not to make this mistake. It is so important to look your item over and give an honest description, so you're not having to accept a return on the back end and disappoint a buyer who could really leave you a bad review. Oh, this is a doozy. I accidentally shipped my package to the wrong address, and I really disappointed the person that was supposed to receive it. But this buyer was not understanding. She actually left me negative feedback. I've had 100% positive feedback my entire eBay career, and this for the first time knocked me down to 99%. Nothing I could say to this buyer was making her feel better, and I didn't have another item just like the one she bought to send her. I guess in the end, I got what I deserved, but I wish I didn't make this mistake in the first place. I hated disappointing her. Little intermission. Please subscribe to my channel. Please like this video, and please leave me a comment below. I would absolutely love it if you gave me some ideas that I haven't covered here. This mistake is so easy to make. Let's say you're selling a couple of items in different sizes. I've definitely been there and done that. And you copy your listing. When you do this, make sure that you change the size so that you don't have the incorrect size in your description versus your title. It's a huge time waster for you as well, because they will message you and ask you for clarification. Now, I know we all want to save money on shipping, so sometimes it might seem like a good idea to ship something in a mailer that should be shipped in a box. But do not do that. It is a huge mistake. Your item could get damaged, and again, you might make that buyer upset, and they could give you negative feedback. This one is a biggie. Don't make the mistake of putting poor quality pictures in your listing. All the buyer has to go by are those pictures. So you want to make sure those pictures are not out of focus, blurry, or taken in poor lighting. Make sure that you're providing quality pictures to your buyers. I actually have pretty good lighting in my house, so I'm lucky. If you're interested in seeing my downsized house, check out my home tour video. But if you're not as fortunate as me and you have poor lighting, you can go by a window to take your pictures or even take your pictures outside. This next one happened to me as a buyer again. I purchased a pair of tights for running, and when I got them, even though the size was the same as the one listed, clearly it was a manufacturer's defect, and I'm positive that the seller knew this and tried to sell it anyway. Don't make that mistake. If that item isn't good for you, it's not going to be good for someone else either. Make sure you clarify that in your description, because inevitably that buyer is going to want to return that item, and eBay will side for them, and for good reason. Your packing materials are so important. Do not chintz out on them. You will be sorry in the end. I remember one time I was trying to save some money on tape, and I bought some really cheap tape that did not hold up during shipping. That item was broken by the time it was received by the buyer, and they were not happy, and neither was I. In the end, it cost me a sale and my time. Just make sure that you use high quality shipping materials. The name of the game is to get your item to your buyer safely and soundly. That kind of attention to detail will make for a happy buyer, and they will give you positive feedback. Oh my goodness, I see this happen all the time, and it's something I did at the very beginning when I was selling, and that is pricing my item too high, just because I paid a lot of money for it. Now, people on eBay, just like at garage sales or anywhere else, they like to get a deal, and you need to price your items competitively. You just have to understand that you're probably not going to get all your money back, but eBay is a great way to get some of it back. Oh, this one's a good one. Everyone thinks their stuff is valuable, and that's just not true. That is why it is so important to look your item up in the sold section to see if it actually will sell. Everything is not worth selling, especially on eBay. It will be a huge waste of time if you're trying to sell an item that nobody wants. Another big mistake sellers make is not putting enough pictures in their listing. You're allowed to have 24 pictures these days. That's so much more than when I started. And I love the fact that I could put that many pictures for my buyers. Take advantage of that opportunity that eBay gives you to give your item the best chance to sell. Now, on breakable items especially, it is so important that you take an extra few minutes and pack it securely. Here's an example. Let's say I have a vase. It's breakable. You basically want to make sure that your item is not right next to the exterior wall of your box, because that is a recipe for your item to break. I've been there, done that, paid the price, and learned my lesson. This is another mistake I see sellers making all the time, and that is folding an item and causing damage to it during shipment. One time, I had a handbag that I purchased. It was not a material that should have been folded. So when I received that handbag, it was ruined. And it was so sad because I wanted it, and now I had to take the time to return it. Just make sure you're packing your item properly to save yourself and your buyer frustration in the end. Don't make the mistake of listing multiple items at the same time. What do I mean by that? Let's say you're selling dishes, and you have multiple 12-piece place settings. So if you're listing these items at the same time, that does not create urgency on the buyer's part, and they'll just wait to make the purchase. And the name of the game is to sell your items and quick for the best price, right? I've made this mistake a few times in my day, but now I'm ultra careful not to do it again. What is it? Selling items with missing pieces. There is nothing more aggravating as a buyer to receive something that has missing pieces, and they will return it, and you will have to pay the shipping to get it returned to you, or you just take a loss and let the buyer have it. Just double check your item and make sure that all the pieces are there to save yourself a headache in the long run. One thing I've learned over the years is I want to make sure I don't make the mistake of not pretending that I am the buyer. When I'm listing an item, I ask myself, What would the buyer like to see? The angles of my shots on my pictures. What would the buyer like to know? So I make sure that my description is complete. How would I like to receive an item? So I make sure that during shipping, I pack it well. Basically, I don't make the mistake of not treating others the way I want to be treated. I hope these tips helped you. If you have any that you want to share with me, I would love it. Here's a little sneak peek of an upcoming video. I'm going to be decluttering and organizing my closet.